Diego. But wherever you're from, we're all here tonight to support our next president, Bernie Sanders. My name is Carol Kim, and I'm a member of the Asian American Pacific Islander Democratic Club, API in the house! It's not really a house. I'm also a member of the San Diego County Party Central Committee, and I am a proud union member. So I'm involved in local politics now, but before I ran for city council in San Diego, I wasn't involved really at all. I was, and still am, an ordinary person, a married mother of two, working a full-time job, who saw that the establishment was doing stuff, right? And realized that ordinary people needed a voice. That we deserve better than politics as usual. I ran against San Diego's Republican machine, and let me tell you, it was tough. I had good days and I had bad days.
You did it!
It was one of those really bad days that I learned the most powerful lesson that actually informs what it is we're doing here tonight when we support Bernie Sanders and participate in his political revolution. So I started my race as a nobody. In fact, most of you probably don't know me, so I'm just kind of there. No one knew me, right? I and a small team of amazing volunteers, we went to work, knocking on people's doors. Through the primary, beating out someone who had held elected office before, it was a huge win for us. And a shock, by the way, to the local political establishment. No one ever thought that we could pull that off. So, yes, it was actually ridiculous. So, in the weeks following that primary, you'd think we would have been celebrating, right? The truth is, I wasn't. And while we were moving on to the general election at that time, and were working incredibly hard, I was still struggling to get institutional support that I believed I needed. Key stakeholders were refusing to support me, and I got the news that a prominent community member from whom I'd been hoping to get an endorsement had endorsed my opponent. So, yeah, I know it's a bummer. So I gotta tell you, at that point in my campaign, I was totally demoralized and I felt defeated for the first time. Especially for someone who came out of nowhere, you would have thought I would have felt that a lot before, but that was when I really felt it. And I went home that night, and it was late after a really long day of campaigning, with what felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders, because you fundraise, you inspire people, you get their votes, and then you're hoping that you're going to be able to pull through for them. And I was met at the door by my husband, who, by the way, is right there with my two kids. And he took one look at my face, and he said, "What's wrong?" So we sat down at the dinner table, and I poured out all of my worries, all of the challenges we were experiencing, and all my fears that we would lose. And I said to him, I don't know how we beat him. I don't know how we beat my opponent. How do we win when the people who should be our allies won't support us? And my husband, he looked at me across that dinner table, and he said the most amazing thing. He said, "Carol, your opponent is not our big enemy. He's not. He is a teeny, tiny enemy. He's really small. Our big enemies are ignorance, apathy, and injustice. Those are our big enemies. And every day, you are going out there and knocking on doors and talking to voters and having meaningful conversations with them about what our local government could look like, about how it could operate, about how they can engage and become empowered and change things for the better. You are winning against ignorance, apathy, and injustice. We are winning.
Let me thank George Lopez for that great introduction. Brothers and sisters, I'm running for president so that together we're going to transform this country.
For real.
I'm running for president because in the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, too many people are living in poverty. In the wealthiest nation in the history of the world, not all of the new wealth and income should be going to the top 1%. I'm running for president because together we are going to create an economy that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors. This campaign is going to win because we're doing something very unusual in American politics. We are telling the truth. And the truth is that we have an enormous amount of greed in this country from Wall Street and corporate America. People who want it all, and we're here tonight to tell them they ain't gonna get it all. In America today, we say thank you to the veterans who put their lives on the line to defend our country. They put their lives on the line to defend democracy. But you know what? You know what? Right now in this country, as a result of a disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, we are seeing democracy being undermined. Democracy is not a complicated process. It means one person, one vote. It means that all of us, the poor and the working class and the middle class, have the right to shape the future of our country. Democracy does not mean a campaign finance system in which billionaires buy elections. Together, we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And together, we're going to tell Republican governors all over America, you will not continue to suppress the vote. We want this country to be a vibrant democracy. We want this country to have the largest, the highest voter turnout of any country, not one of the lowest. Elected president, what we are going to have is a process in which if you are 18 years of age or older, you are registered to vote. End of discussion. This campaign is not just about ending a corrupt campaign finance system. This campaign is about ending a rigged economy. Every American should be ashamed that we have one of the worst levels of income and wealth inequality of any major country on earth. Now, you're not going to hear this much in the corporate media. But today, the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Today in America, while we have children who are going hungry, while we have veterans who are sleeping out on the streets, the 20 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. Today in America, in family after family, mom is working, dad is working, the kids are working, and yet 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. As George Lopez said, enough is enough. To create an economy that works for all of us, and that means that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. And that means that we're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. And that living wage is $15 an hour. Now my opponent, Secretary Clinton, thinks $12 an hour is enough. No way, no way. We got moms out there who are working 50, 60 hours a week trying to provide for their kids. They need $15 an hour. We talk about fair wages. I know that every man here will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. There is no rational reason other than sexism that women today make 79 cents on the dollar. I was in Flint, Michigan a couple of months ago, and what I saw in Flint, Michigan, and what I heard in Flint, Michigan should not be seen in the United States of America in 2016. Children were being poisoned by excessive lead in the water. But let me tell you, it is not just Flint, Michigan, which has an inadequate water system. It is hundreds of communities throughout this country. Communities have problems with obsolete wastewater plants. Our roads and our bridges are in massive disrepair. We used to have the best railroad system in the world, no longer the case, and levees and dams all over America need repair. Don't let anybody tell you that real unemployment in America is 5%. That's official unemployment. Real unemployment is double that, and in communities all over this country, we're seeing unemployment a lot higher than 10%. We need a massive federal jobs program to put our people back to work. Think of an America where millions of workers are rebuilding our water systems, our wastewater plants, crumbling schools, bridges, our rail system. We can become more productive and safer, put 13 million people back to work rebuilding our infrastructure. In America today, we have millionaires paying an effective tax rate lower than working people. In America today, we have large multinational corporations making billions of dollars a year in profit, stashing their profits in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. And in a given year, not paying a nickel in federal taxes. You know what? Together, we are going to change that, and the billionaires and corporations are going to start paying their fair share. Over the last 30 years, while we have seen the middle class of this country disappear, while we have seen more and more people living in poverty, while we have seen a grotesque level of income and wealth inequality, we have had a trade policy which has enabled corporations to shut down in California, Vermont, all over this country, and move to cheap labor countries all over the world. Our message to corporate America is, if you want us to buy your products, you better damn well start manufacturing those products. But it is not just a corrupt campaign finance system or a grossly unfair and rigged economy. And let me say a word about poverty in America, because I think we don't discuss it very, very much. People think that what poverty is about is somebody not being able to afford a flat screen TV or go out to eat or go out to the movies. That's not what poverty is about. What poverty is about, and what I saw at the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, what I saw in McDowell County in West Virginia, are people dying 15 or 20 years younger than they should because of the stress of poverty. In the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, life expectancy for men is lower than in a poor third world country. When people are poor and they don't know how they're going to feed their families, they don't know if they have enough money to put gas in the car to get to work, and if they can't get to work, they're going to lose their job, and if they lose their job, their whole family falls apart. That stress, day after day after day, impacts your very life and your body. Poverty kills people. It's not a question of flat screen TVs or fancy cell phones. It's a question of whether you get to the doctor when you need to get to the doctor. It's a question of whether you can eat food that is halfway healthy. And together we are going to address the fact that in this great country, we got 47 million people living in poverty, and we have by far the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. What a disgrace. What an embarrassment. We have a proliferation of millionaires and billionaires, and half of the children in public schools in this country are on free or reduced lunches because their parents are not earning decent income. But it is not only a corrupt campaign finance system and billionaires undermining American democracy that we're going to change. It is not only the extremely grotesque level of income and wealth inequality that we're going to address. It is a broken criminal justice system. I want you all to please think outside of the box, think outside of the status quo, think outside of the way the corporate media wants you to think. And ask yourself a very simple question. How does it happen that in this great country, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth? China is 4 times our size. It's a communist authoritarian country that does not tolerate dissent particularly well. And we have more people in jail than China. Disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American. We're going to address that issue by first understanding why we have so many people in jail, And a lot of that has to do with the fact that in communities all over America, in inner cities and in rural America, you have unemployment rates for young people of 30, 40, 50%. What we are going to do together is invest in our young people in jobs and education. Not in jails and incarceration. I want this country to have the best educated population on earth, not to be the country that has more people in jail than any other country. I want our young people to have decent jobs or be in school, not rotting in jail cells. And when we talk about reforming a broken criminal justice system, we're also talking about taking a hard look at local police departments all over this country. I was the mayor in Burlington, Vermont for 8 years. I work with the local police department and I've worked with police officials all over this country. The average cop is honest, hardworking, and has a very, very difficult job. But, like any other public official, if a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. When we talk about local police departments, we have got to demilitarize many of them. We have got to make local police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We have got to end corporate ownership of prisons and detention. All of you know that we are living in a competitive global economy. We need the best educated workforce in the world. It is absolutely nuts that hundreds of thousands of bright young people in this country do not go to college for one reason. Their families do not have the financial resources. It is equally crazy that millions of people leave school deeply in debt. How many people here have student debt? Incredible. Incredible. And that's your part. Don't feel alone about this. Millions of people are struggling with student debt, sometimes paying that off for decades. We should, in this country, be encouraging people to get all the education they can. We should not be punishing people with outrageous levels of student debt. And that is why I believe two things. Number one, in the year 2016, when we talk about public education, it is not good enough to talk about first grade through 12th grade. Today, we must be talking about public education to include making public colleges and universities tuition free. That making public colleges and universities tuition-free is a radical idea? No! It is not a radical idea. It is a commonsensical idea. It exists already in Germany. It exists in Scandinavia. And you know what? This will surprise some of you, but 50 years ago, it virtually existed here in California. You had the great University of California virtually tuition free. If we could provide tuition-free education in California 50 years ago, we damn well can do it today. And the other thing that we have got to address is this issue of student debt, of people paying off loans at 6, 8, 10% interest rates. Together, what we are going to do is allow every person with student debt to refinance their loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, my opponents tell me, well, Bernie, you're Santa Claus, you're a nice guy. You're giving away free tuition, you're going to lower student debt. What a nice guy you are. How are you going to pay for it? Let me tell you exactly how. In the last 25 years, there has been a massive shift, redistribution of wealth in this country from the middle class to the top 0.1% of 1%. 8 years ago, against my vote, the Congress bailed out Wall Street. I believe that now is the time to impose a tax on Wall Street speculation. And that tax alone will more than pay for free tuition at public colleges and universities and a significant reduction of student debt. Wall Street does not like that idea. And I say to Wall Street, your greed, your illegal behavior has done incalculable harm to the working families of this country. And whether you like it or not, you are going to start paying your fair share of taxes. Something that no other candidate for president will tell you, and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. And the reason for that, and I'm just being honest with you, the reason for that is that the power of Wall Street, which has endless supplies of money, and I mean endless supplies of money, the power of corporate America, which can shut down factories today and move to China, the power of corporate media, which will tell you everything that you don't need to know, but very little about what you need to know, the power of billionaire campaign contributions. These guys are very powerful, and they want it all. And the only way, in my view, that we can make the kinds of transformative changes that we need as a nation is when millions of people stand up and help create a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%. Now, everybody here knows a very profound lesson of American history, and that is that real change never takes place from the top on down. It is always from the bottom on up. A 100 years ago, workers in this country were working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. Children were working in factories and losing their fingers and hands in terrible machinery. Kids were working on farms and on plantations. But working people came together. They said, you know what? We are human beings. We are not beasts of burden. We are entitled to dignity on the job. We're going to form unions. And workers came together in their unions and took on large corporations, and they helped create the middle class of this country. 150 years ago, amidst the abomination of slavery in this country, African Americans and their allies looked at the ugliness and the suffering that was going on, and they said, our vision of America is that someday we will become a nation that ends racism and segregation and bigotry. We do not know or ever will know the number of people who died in that struggle, who were beaten, who went to jail, or who were lynched. But we do know that over the years, millions of people stood up and fought back to end racism in America. The children do not know this, but less than 100 years ago in America, women did not have the right to vote, could not get the education or the jobs they wanted. Women were told by the establishment and by the culture of the time that their function in life was to stay home and have babies. But women stood up and they fought back. Women went on hunger strikes. They went to jail and they sometimes died. But they said loudly and clearly that in America, women will not be second-class citizens. If we were here 10 years ago, no time at all, somebody would have jumped up and said, you know, Bernie, I think that by the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in every state in this country. If somebody said that, the person next door would have said, you're crazy. It can't happen. There's too much homophobia. There's too much hatred in this country. It can't happen. But the gay community and their straight allies stood up and fought back. And they said something very profound. They said that in America, people should have the right to love whoever they wanted, regardless of their gender. If we were here 5 years ago, somebody jumps up and says, you know, Bernie, there's $7.25 minimum wage. It's a starvation wage. We got to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. The person next to him would have said, $15 an hour? You are nuts. You are crazy. You are thinking too big. You want to more than double the minimum wage? Nuts. Can't be done. Maybe $10 an hour, maybe 11, but 15, too high. But what happened? What happened is workers in the fast food industry went out on strike. And they explained to the American people, you know what? We can't live on $7.25 an hour. And then interesting things started to happen. In Seattle, Washington, they raised the minimum wage $15. In Los Angeles and San Francisco, $15. In California and New York, $15 an hour. here is my point. What the establishment wants you to believe is that we cannot achieve real change in America. They want us to believe that we are powerless and that the best that we can get is small incremental changes. I have 1%, not acceptable. And they are looking around and they're seeing women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Not acceptable. And they are seeing the infrastructure of this country collapsing right in front of their eyes. Not acceptable. And they are seeing our country maintain a corrupt campaign finance system that allows billionaires to buy elections, and they're saying, not acceptable. And they're looking around and they say, how does it happen that every other country provides guaranteed, paid family and medical leave to its people, except America? Not acceptable. And why is it that we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? And why is it that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people? And why is it that our young people are leaving school $30,000 or $50,000 in debt? And why are we not more aggressive in taking on the fossil fuel industry and combating climate change? And that's what people all over this country are beginning to understand. And what they are also understanding is that when we stand together, we can create a government that represents you and all of us, and not just the people on top. And the American people also understand that Donald Trump cannot and will not ever become president. And it's not just that Trump, a billionaire, or at least he tells us he's a billionaire. Probably as broke as everybody else's, but he doesn't often tell the truth. But in any case, he wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to his fellow billionaire friends. This is a guy who changes his mind on every issue. What he says on Monday is negated on Tuesday, changed again on Wednesday. This is a guy who recklessly talks about using nuclear weapons. Our job is to rid this planet of nuclear weapons, not talk about Most importantly, I think the American people understand that we will not and cannot elect a president who insults Mexicans and Latinos, who insults Muslims and women, who insults African Americans. I hope you all remember that before he was a candidate for president, Trump was one of the leaders of the so-called birther movement. And what that movement was about was trying to undermine the legitimacy of the first African American president in our history. Trump will not be elected president because the American people understand that our strength as a people is in our diversity. My guess is if we looked at where every person here comes from, where the... If we looked at where every... What's going on, medical problem? Okay, can we get a medic over there, please? Oh, we need a medic. All right, they're on their way. All right, let's make sure that this room... All right. Let the medics do their job then.
I love you, Bernie!
We had the bird!
Somebody's a medic. Right, look at this, everything's taken out.
Just as we can stand together and support the EMTs and somebody who has fainted, we can stand together and transform this country. And the reason that Trump will not be elected president is we understand, and this is a very profound point, that our strength is in our diversity. If you were to look around you, my guess is that there are people here tonight who come from well over 100 countries all over the world, from Latin America, from the Philippines, from Europe, from Africa. That's where our people come from. But we come together as one people, and that coming together will always trump those people who are wanting to divide us up. Another thing that people in America instinctively understand is that we need each other to thrive and do well. Nobody can do it all by himself or herself. That when your family is in trouble, you have a right to ask my family to help you. And when my family is in trouble, you gotta be there for us. So when veterans sleep out on the street and children go hungry and elderly people can't afford their prescription drugs, we have got to be there for each other. And that supporting each other, being there for each other, always trumps selfishness. And what the American people also understand is perhaps the most profound point, and that is that it is something taught to us by every religion on earth, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, whatever. And that is that at the end of the day, love always trumps hatred. justice. I want you to think big, not small. I want you to imagine what this country can become if we are prepared to stand up and fight for that vision. On June 7th, there is going to be an enormously important primary here in California. 475 delegates are at stake, more than any other state. If we can win here in California and win big, and I think we can, if we can win in the other 5 states that are coming up on June 7th, and I think we can, we're going to go into the Democratic Convention with an enormous amount of momentum. And that momentum, combined with the fact that every national poll in the last 6 weeks and every state poll has us defeating Donald Trump and defeating him by big numbers. With your help, we can win here in California. With your help, we can win this election. What we have found up to now is when the voter turnout is high, we win. Let us, this June 7th, have the highest voter turnout in California history for the Democratic Party. And let this great state, this progressive state, tell the world that California is going to lead us into the political revolution.
quality of life.